Okay, you might want to go back to page 1 of your 8.4 notes handout and reread the portion about circumference, because that is not something that we've talked about much. Circumference is really like perimeter. It just relates to a circle. Since a circle is not a polygon, it doesn't have a perimeter. It just has circumference. And easy to remember because it starts with cir, just like circle. So the term circumference does not refer to any other distance of any other shape, just circles. So there's a formula for circumference, and notice in the instructions it says to round to the nearest 100th centimeter. That's because we're going to be using an approximation for pi, capital C for circumference, pi, which is approximately 3.14, which we learned about on Pi Day, and it's times the diameter, d. Or another way to think of the formula is 2 times pi, oops, I won't write a cursive R, let's get that straight, 2 times pi times radius. Well, 2 times the radius is the same as d. So I like to really just think about this formula right here, and if I have radius, well, then I'll just double it and still use this same formula. So the example that we have, since diameter is the distance through the center, this one is 7.5 centimeters. So it's really an easy problem to do. It's pi times 7.5. So we're going to have to approximate it. Whenever you insert 3.14 for pi, you use the approximation symbol because that's not an exact value for pi. So to get an approximation, which we're going to do, sometimes I'll ask you to give the exact answer, like on example 7, and we'll show what to do there. But if you multiply 3.14 times 7.5, which you can just work out to the side, and I would do that on my homework and actually show it. So I'm just going to extend down here, but you get 23.55. And just like perimeter, circumference is a linear measurement. So you measure it with any things that you can measure with a tape measure or a ruler are linear. 23.55. That's it for circumference. Pretty easy stuff. So let me just erase this one line and we'll work on this next example. So sometimes you want to get an exact answer for circumference, but when you do, that means you have to just leave pi as pi and not actually substitute 3.14. So it actually makes the problem a little bit easier. So in circle M over here, I'm just going to write underneath it, the radius is 3, so the diameter has to be double that, so the diameter is 6. And there's no units given here, so we'll just put units with our answer, the term units. So to get the exact value, we're still using our formula, and it's really a good practice every time you use a formula to actually write the formula down. That way, whoever's looking at your work, you or me, we know what you were actually thinking. So if I want an exact answer, I want to multiply pi times the diameter, and the best way to write that is 6 pi. You leave off the parentheses because 6 times pi is 6 pi. Sort of like we do when we have a variable like 6x or 6p. Even though pi is not a variable, it represents a particular value, and that is 6 pi units. So that's what it is exactly. So if that's what it is exactly, whoops, 6 pi, then approximately it's 6 times 3.14. So we need to multiply. Don't don't forget to use your approximation symbol. So let's see, 6 times 4 is 24. Carry the 2, 6, 7, 8. 6 times 3 is 18. You have to move the decimal over twice. So if you want to challenge yourself to multiply without actually writing out scratch over to the side, practice. It's a good idea, and this would be units. So 6 pi is equivalent to approximately 18.84 units. And that makes sense because 6 times 3 alone would be 18. So you'd expect it to be a little bit greater. So the only thing that can make circumference challenging for you is not knowing the formula. Pi times diameter. Pi diameter. That's it. So if you want to stop here and take on the circumference portion of your homework, that would be a good idea. And then I'll pick back up with this video and we'll talk about area.